Hey guys, welcome to this lecture, and in this one we're going to briefly go over modifiers and how to use them with your objects. Now modifiers are great for doing quite a few things, but I use them primarily for modeling. So if I jump over to my properties panel and I look over here towards the middle, I'm going to see this little wrench that we've gone over, and it'll take you to the modifiers panel. So if drop this down, you're going to see all the different modifier options that we have. So let's prep the model for some modification. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to shading under the tools panel, and right now it's set to flat. So if I look at this model, I can see all of the separate faces, and it looks really jagged, like it's sort of made out of a rock. And that's good because it can show you what your model's doing as you're modeling. But now that I want to create more of a smooth object, and I want to come in here and start refining things, I'm going to change the way this looks and is rendered in the viewport so that it's a little smoother looking. So if I just have my object selected, come over here, and like I said, it's on flat right now. If I hit smooth instead, it's going to try to give me a little bit more of a smooth transition from one face to the next. And it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to help us make the object look a little better when we start tweaking things with modifiers to get a better preview of what it's going to look like when we render it. So I'm going to do the same thing for the hat here and just get things going a little smoother. Now this looks terrible, and I understand that, but again, as we add modifiers, you'll see how this will help, and I'll show you the difference. So let's go over some modifiers. I'm going to go ahead and start with the monkey itself. I'm going to select the head, and I'm going to go over a few modifiers that I use all the time. There's just not time to get in here and go over all of them, so I've picked the ones that I think you guys will probably end up using quite a bit. So let's first talk about the subdivision surface modifier. This is the one I use most often. It's down here under generate, and if I left click this and add a subdivision modifier, what it's going to do is it's going to take what I already have and it's going to try to add geometry automatically to smooth out edges. So right now you can see under view it's set to 1 subdivision level. If I turn this up to 2 or 3, as you can see, every time I go up, it's smoothing out how this object looks. So this is how you can come in and quickly refine edges to your geometry once you've got it in a good place, and it will allow you to smooth things out. Now, let's go over some things to be aware of. If I go into edit mode, I still have everything the way it was before. So this is a modifier and it's not permanent. So if anytime I want to get rid of it, I can hit the X and it will get rid of it, and I'll go right back to where I was. So you're not doing anything permanent. It's a great way to work if you want to just see how things will end up looking when you smooth it. And a lot of times I go ahead and add one early on when I'm modeling, and I'll just keep it turned on so I can continue to build models and see how things are going to end up. But if I go back and add up the subdivision levels back up to 3, it's going to smooth it back out. And instead of getting rid of it, if I turn the eye off, I can hide it and unhide it, just like kind of in the outliner up here. This will turn it off the ability to render the modifier. So it'll look smooth here, but if I went over here and hit render, it's not going to render it smooth. It's going to be that jagged surface. So go back to the modifier menu. Now let's turn that back on, and again, if I hit render, now it's smooth. Okay. So this is really handy. I use it a lot. Now let's say you're done editing and you're ready to apply this modifier and make it final. You can do that, and there's nothing wrong with that. I usually don't apply them unless it's going to give me a boost in render time, because if I'm just modeling an object and I'm just using it as a standalone object and I want to be able to come back and edit it, it's a lot easier not to add all that geometry in permanently, but instead to come in here and just be able to tweak this stuff, and it will kind of do what it does when you do proportional editing. It'll keep the smooth factor live, but it will allow you to just edit one face, So let's see what happens when we apply it. If we hit apply, it's going to go away, and now it's permanent. So if we go back into edit mode now, you can see all that geometry that smoothed it out has been added in. Now, this is great, except when I come in here now and I want to edit things, I can't just easily select a bunch of stuff and fix things without proportional editing. So if I turn on proportional editing, you can see I can kind of get back to where I was with the capability to move things around. But man, if you came in here and decided, I want to get rid of, these eyebrows, and you deleted these faces and then you wanted to rebuild it, that would suck, because you'd have to go in here and reconnect all of these edges. So don't apply the modifier until you're positive that you're not going to tweak the model anymore, because it's just a lot easier to build things this way. I'm going to go ahead and add one to the hat too, just so you guys can see what that's going to look like. And as you can see, I had all these jagged edges around the hat, which were kind of the shape that we wanted, but as soon as I start adding this modifier and upping the smooth factor, it's not jagged anymore. And the only way to fix that is to go in and add points to the edges around the parts that I want to be more angular. So if I want to get things looking a little bit sharper, you have to bunch edges up together in groups, and this is kind of how you can start getting more edges. So as you can see, by adding that extra set of edges in through the top of the hat there, I've been able to kind of crease that surface, and the more you do that, the closer the edges are together, the tighter the edge is going to be when you start modeling your objects. So handy to know. Let's talk about some other modifiers. So I'm done with the monkey. Let's go ahead and get rid of it. It was fun while it lasted. let's get back to our default cube. So I'm going to pull the cube up, and I'm just going to show you some other modifiers. So let's go over one I use a lot too, called the mirror modifier. This modifier is really handy. It's right here. And before I add it, I'm going to show you what it does. So if I go into edit mode, I'm going to go over to faces and delete this face over here. Then I'm going to go over to edge mode, get all these edges right here, and I'm going to move them back to the middle of the scene. So we've effectively cut our cube in half here, right down the middle, and we don't have this joined. So here's what the mirror modifier does. If I go down to mirror modifier and turn that on, add it to our scene, it's going to mirror this model across an axis. Now, right now it's set to the x-axis, and again, if you want to modify that, you just have to come over here under axis and check off these boxes. Now you can modify and let it mirror across more than one axis at a time, unless you really have a specific reason for doing that, and the way you're sculpting or something like that with your model. I would leave it only under one axis. So right now I'm going to just turn on the Y, and as you can see, it's automatically making the rest of this object on this side based on the stuff on this side. So it's like a mirror, and anything that I change over here, it's going to change automatically on that side for me. Now, this is a lot more handy than maybe even you realize at this point, because most things in nature, most things in in industrialized environments have some level of symmetry. So it's really handy to be able to do a building, do half of one, and then come in and just mirror it. And you don't even have to do half of it. You could do a quarter of the building and then mirror it all to all four sides. So really handy. I use it a lot when I'm doing faces, cars, anything that has symmetry in it. And that's the mirror modifier. Now, something to be aware of too is it's going to mirror, but it's going to not join things in the middle unless I tell it to. So if I move these vertices away, it's going to split the object and leave this big giant hole in it. Well, the way to get rid of that is if you turn on clipping right here in the middle, it's going to use this tolerance limit right here, which will allow it to merge vertices in the middle. And clipping is not going to allow me to even move the vertices off that center axis, and we'll keep them joined. So really handy if you want to make sure you're not going to start modifying an object by scaling it or moving things around, and you want to make sure that it's still joined, because with this off, if I'm scaling the entire object, it's going to do that, which may not be what you want. Alright, so merge is another option that's by default turned on. And what this does is it's going to affect the model once you apply the modifier. So like I said, with clipping turned off, they're separate. Well, with merge turned off, once I say I'm ready to apply this modifier, and I hit apply, if I go into edit mode, they're still separate. They're not joined. If I want those to be joined automatically, I have to turn merge on, which again will take those in the middle and join them together. So now I've got one single vertice all the way down the middle axis here, and I don't have to merge them manually, which again is helpful. Now you'll notice something that might have happened. I was in edit mode and I tried to apply this modifier, and it's going to give me an error. If you're in edit mode, you have to finish whatever you're doing and then get back into object mode before you can apply the modifier. And the reason for this is because modifiers only work on entire objects. They don't work on pieces of objects. So make sure you're in object mode when you're working with applying modifiers, and you'll be good to go on that front. So there's a lot more to explore in the modifier panel. You can easily spend weeks in here learning how to use everything properly, and I would really recommend you guys get in here and explore all of these options and try things out. You never know what you're going to find that's really going to be useful and saves you a lot of time. And that's going to wrap us for the modifier section. So in the next lecture, I'm going to go over some essential keyboard shortcuts that I use to speed up my modeling workflow. It's going to be kind of a review and kind of some new stuff that we haven't touched on yet. So if you're struggling with the keyboard shortcuts, definitely pay attention to the next lesson, because we're going to kind of review everything and get into some more. So I'll see you there.